Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Six Rings King Show on a new night, Monday night now, baby. We're really excited, actually, to have Eric McLean on the show here, college football analyst, co-host of The Huddle. Coach, yes! All right!
First touchdown of the year.
Miami Hurricanes, yeah. You know the name already. It's Mercy. Ha ha. It's a six-ring game show. Can't forget the name though. Got Jazz, Blue, Vish, and DJ break the game code. Ain't no changing them, ain't no breaking them. We'll put alive from the Hard Rock Stadium. Ball 14 for the orange and green. We see the six-ring champs. It's more than a dream. This is life on the field. Beyond 100 yards of Hurricane that's never still put a damage to your squad.
What's wrong with us? Seriously.
What's wrong with us? We're Miami Hurricanes fans.
Welcome to the Six Rings Cane Show, a show dedicated to Miami Hurricane sports, featuring the legendary Larry Bluestein, Jazz Santana, Vish, and Danny Gillette. Let's go Canes.
What is going on, everyone? It is Matt. Hopefully, at this point, if you don't know who Matt is, then I don't know what to tell you, but welcome back to the show, Matt. Great to have you here again.
Yeah, great to be back, man. I do this show more than any of the shows I have.
I mean, we keep saying if we keep winning, we'll keep doing it. And, knock on wood, we got a lot more shows left in us, I think.
Yeah, well, Jordan Miller personally messaged me and said, I want you guys to keep doing shows, so I'm going to put the team on my back for Texas, and we're going to
okay, let's just go right into it. Because, the first time we did a show, you said you were president of the Jordan Miller fan club. And now, after the Indiana game, I gave you the floor to he did a ridiculous job defending one of the best big men in the country, and he's undersized. And I was like, here's the floor to just talk about Jordan Miller. I don't even know what to do this time. The man didn't miss a shot. You know what? I'll give you the floor again, but I feel like it needs more than that. But at this point, you know what? The floor is yours to just talk about Jordan Miller.
I mean, what can you really say when a guy has a perfect game offensively? Literally, what was it? 6 for 6 and then 13 for 13 on free throws?
I think it was 7 for 7.
Oh, 7 for 7.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 20 for 20, right?
Yeah.
Christian Laettner was the only one to ever do that in history, which I don't know if you saw the video of Christian Laettner FaceTiming Jordan Miller. That was kind of cool, even though I'm not the biggest Christian Laettner fan.
He said he was cheering for Miami, so you know what? Any storm, let's kick all the positivity here and push it forward.
I support it. No, but it's so crazy because he ended with 27, right? And I think in the first half he was 6 for 6. He had, his 6 field goal attempts in the first half. The crazy thing is we could have gone to him more, because their whole game strategy, they wanted to take away our guards. They wanted to take away Nigel Pack. They wanted to take away Isaiah Wong. They were all over him. Marcus Carr did a really good job on Isaiah Wong. Up until, the end of the close to the end of the game, I think Marcus Carr got a little banged up.
He got Norchatted is what happened. He messed with the big man, and he did not come out well.
Yeah, no, he did not come out well. No, they did a pretty good job on our guards. You saw that from the 3-point attempts. We couldn't really create shots with space and stuff. We had to, and that's the story of this team, just find a way to win, right? We saw it in the Drake game. We won with our defense, they did a good job, scouting on how our guys like getting shots and whatnot. You saw it with Indiana, you saw it with Houston, you saw it in this game, just finding a way to win the game. But just going back over to Jordan Miller, their whole game plan was essentially he's going to get whatever he wants. They had Timmy Allen guarding him for a majority of the game. And Timmy Allen is 6'4", I want to say. Kind of undersized guard, and they kind of put him at that 4 position, due to injuries and whatnot. But Jordan Miller was taking it to him every single time because Jordan Miller has a 7-foot wingspan, little bit, I would say, more athletic, and has a very quick step, and I think it's hard to guard. And honestly, he could have probably had 40 if he really wanted to.
I think in addition to the things you mentioned, he shoots from so many different angles. It's just, and he's got a great pump fake too. It's just really hard to actually challenge his shot.
Yeah,
'cause
it's
he's
not just
able to.
athleticism. It's he's so crafty once he gets to the rim. He knows how to utilize angles and like how to use space or create space for that matter. And I mean he's improved as a jump shooter too. I don't think he he didn't make a three this game, but I think he can
Well, basically,
consistently.
no one did basically. So
Yeah, I mean no one did.
Wook and Nigel hit
But
perimeter
yeah,
threes, and that was it.
yeah, but basically, like as a defender, when you know that in the scouting report, this guy can actually consistently hit this shot now, it just makes it that much harder, you know. But I mean, and then defensively, he had that one deflection steal. I think it was, I don't remember how much time was left. It was like one of the last possessions that Texas had.
Right.
And I mean, just doing it on both sides of the floor. So I'm always going to be the president of the Jordan Miller Clan Club.
I think your boat is very crowded at this point, but you were there first.
I know.
So you get to ride the front.
I will. Everyone can come on.
Yeah,
Everyone can come on.
I mean, if we're letting
aboard.
Christian Laettner on the boat, then certainly any Canes fans are welcome to join.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I will say, in contrast to the Drake, I thought Drake did a good job taking away our driving, but we just shot like crap. We were getting looks,
yeah,
and missing them. Like Wong couldn't throw in the ocean. Even Jordan Miller was missing. I mean, we actually talked about this after that game, like that, and Wong hit this shot multiple times against Texas. His little baseline jumper is really automatic, and he missed it.
He must be like 85% from that shot, from out of bounds plays and everything.
Multiple times, Jordan Miller's little like fade in the lane that he always makes, he missed against Drake. So I think that was a combination of, they took away our easiest offense, and then our secondary offense, we were just missing shots. This game, Texas was basically like, they're not going to shoot threes. And they crowded us off the line. It didn't work. We scored 88 points. But it was uncomfortable for us to watch because it wasn't our normal game. But I think, like you called out earlier, that's where the versatility of the team comes in. Because if you're going to crowd out on our guards and crowd, like you said, Jordan Miller can knock the three down, crowd out on him, they're going to go past you. They're quicker than you. And I think early on, we were attacking inside, and that's how we got the 7-0 lead. It was all off the dribble and attack the rim. Some of it was Jordan Miller, of course. And then, it was really just a barrage of 3-pointers from them was why they had the lead. They were just, until the last 10 minutes, lights out, just wouldn't miss anything because we were shooting, 60-something% and losing. So I don't know that. I think the defense took us out of shooting 3-pointers, scored 88 points. I don't know that it necessarily even worked. It was just uncomfortable for us.
Yeah, it was definitely like you could tell they were overplaying, and which opened up the drive and whatnot. I mean,
and led to the free throws as well, because then they had to come over, help, and foul. It was all related to the way they were playing the 3-point line. But I think for them, they're not going to kill us with these. You know how hard it is to score 88 points when you made 2 3-pointers? Like, unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, not for us.
Well, yeah, apparently not.
Apparently.
Yeah, it's a strange performance. I do want to ask you a couple. We're obviously gonna talk about Connecticut, but there's a couple other things I want to unpack here a little bit. So I think in the preview we talked about how do the AJ Casey, Anthony Walker minutes split? How much time can we give them? Sometimes it's a matter of just surviving the minutes with them on the floor. In the second half, Coach Ellis said 0 minutes. They did not come off the bench. What do you think about that? That was the adjustment. From the first half, it was rough when Anthony Walker was in there. It was rough, and it was rough when AJ Casey was in there. So he just abandoned ship with them. Like, nope, we'll go small. Well, what did you think about that decision?
I think that he saw what Texas was doing. We talk about like overcommitting to jump shooters and overplaying, and he realized, okay, we're gonna have to initiate offense by driving, and you can't really do that when you have Anthony Walker or AJ Casey in. They're kind of. I mean, there's times where Anthony Walker will know when to cut and stuff, but there's other times where it's like it's just another guy kind of in the lane getting in the way if you're trying to drive in. I think that's why he kind of went that route. And obviously, too, the guys that we stuck with, like Bensley and, our other guards off the bench, they can create their own shot. It might not be as, at high level as some of the other guys, but they can still take people off the dribble, So I think that's kind of where the adjustment was made.
I think it was probably also a trust thing. Like, frankly, we've talked about Anthony Walker's up and down play, and it was down. And he was also not positioning well defensively. And I think Coach Ellis was like, forget this. and basically said we're going to go, because you mentioned Bensley Joseph. I mean, he's someone that Coach L's trusted to close games out multiple times. So he's not a co-starter because the starters log most of the minutes, and he's clearly the sixth man, but he's a trusted player. And then, I mean, Beverly had a couple of not so great moments too, but I think he's someone that generally Coach L trusts. And I think one of the issues with Casey and Walker's, they get lost out there. It wasn't just that, they weren't contributing. Texas was going at them, posting them up, bringing them into the play, and generating offense off of them. And then, like you said, they were messing up the spacing on defense. So I think that was kind of So I think they played a combined 7 minutes in the first half, even though we can talk about Coach L's decision to basically sit Norchad most of the first half to avoid foul trouble. Because after he got the first one, he sat him a lot. And in the second half, it was no minutes for those two. So it was an interesting decision there. I guess, do you think that's something we might see again here against Connecticut?
I know we're going to go into the Connecticut thing. I'm like teetering back and forth between this just because like the UConn bigs, it's different. The team is structured differently. I mean, Texas was essentially playing like 4 guys that can take you off the dribble, and then like a 5-man that, you know what I mean? Like Dylan Mitchell isn't a guy that can create for himself. You know what I mean? It was another like athletic big essentially. So UConn's built a little different. I mean, they play, more. I don't even know how to break down the team essentially, but I mean, like Caravan, they're starting 4-man. He's a shooter, but he doesn't really kind of create for himself. So it's just kind of like a different mix of personnel, if that makes sense. I do think that we probably will see Anthony Walker and AJ Casey a little more, unless, I mean, I don't know. Coach L does this for a living for a reason, so that's kind of my initial thought.
Yeah, and we'll deep dive more into UConn in a minute because I don't know that we're done with Texas yet. But yeah, it was just kind of a little bit of that was something that really stood out to me. That was one of his, I think, probably his biggest halftime adjustment was just to refuse, because he tried to protect Norchad from fouls, but he picked up 3 relatively quick in the second half, so he was at 4 fouls, and that was where normally you'd see Walker Casey come in. Instead, he went small. I guess the other thing I wanted to kind of touch on from that game is the resiliency here. I mean, that did not feel comfortable at all most of the game. And it felt like when the Hurricanes would make a few plays and they'd start to get some momentum, like Texas would come right back. They hit so many threes, and I think there was one sequence where Wong had a little pull-up jumper and it rolled all the way in, came out, and then they ended up beating us down the court and threw an alley-oop, and it was like a 4-point swing. And at that point, it was an 8-point game. Like, we can get down to 6. It's back up to 10 now. And that happened so many times, and the team still got up off the mat and gutted the game out in the end. First of all, where is this coming from? And is this something that, you saw coming? Because to be honest, in the middle, most of the losses this year came from blowing games at the end of them. Games that they control most of the game, and this is like the second time that the opposite has happened in 4 games.
Yeah, well, I think that the team, obviously that happened. It was like early. Some of it was in later ACC play, but I think that the team is finally in a position, because you look at our squad and it's a lot of guys that can create for themselves, right? And there's always this balancing act of, guys are going to want to create for themselves, but you also want to get your teammates involved. And I think we've reached this like equilibrium of like guys know who to give it to. Like last game against Texas, it was Jordan Miller. Like they knew he had a mismatch. Isaiah Wong had some shots at the end of the game. And I think that's the difference between us and some of these other teams. You look at what Texas was doing at the end of the game. Marcus Carr had the ball at the end of the game. Timmy Allen was posting up Bensley Joseph, which, he burned us in that post. Like probably it was like 3 or 4 straight possessions. It was either a foul or, he would make like a little leaner, create space. So I think it's kind of that, we've been in these scenarios before. We've been in close games. We know how, to play one off one another. And once you have that experience, I mean, it goes a long ways, in a tournament like this where there's only close games. You might win by double digits, but the game, at the end can, be determined by a few possessions.
So yeah, I mean, I think we do have to kind of Texas did play a role in their own downfall there.
Oh, absolutely.
It wasn't just the Canes, but I will say, and this was something that was talked about a lot at halftime. They just weren't missing, and they're not the greatest 3-point shooting team. And a lot of that was just regression to the mean, like them not missing a 3-pointer or whatever in the first half. Part of it was frankly the defense. We talked about the better defense that the Canes were playing. That did not show up in the first half, but also even if you leave people open, they miss sometimes. They weren't missing anything, and I think in the second half they pretty much missed everything.
I gotta say, Serge Rice has one of the best pump fakes I've ever seen in my life. And we fell for it like at least like 3 or 4 times, which led to like a mid-range or just defensive breakdown. I know he hit a couple threes off it too, so that was the main thing from the first half. We fell for those pump fakes. We overreacted. We closed out too hard, and it led to some sort of breakdown. But I think that got shored up a little bit more in the second half.
Yeah, and I think going small helped with that a little bit, because we're able to switch everything. Like this is not always a good idea because it gets very undersized. Because even as a power forward, Jordan Miller's undersized. But when we go to that 5 guard set with generally, because Omir's in foul trouble, always he'll be on the court. But when we go to that 5 guard set and it is kind of like either Joseph or Beverly in, you can switch everything. Like you don't have to even worry about the screens because it's like for like switches. And I think we're able to do that a little bit, which settled the defense because they were doing an excellent job of coming off the screen, making an extra pass. It was like the second pass that was opening up the 3-point. Our rotations were a little slow, but also just, we have bigs rotating out to 3-point shooters is not a great thing to begin with. So I think they did a really good job of dissecting how to be effective off of that. And our counter to that was to play smaller and then just switch it versus trap it. And then once they started missing shots, then we start trapping it again. It is kind of because that is the thing when we play that when they run a screen and roll, like we trap the hell out of it. That is how we play that. Generally, play that defense. Norchad's really good at it, and they found a way to exploit it.
No, yeah, it's good. I mean, they were getting the ball out really quick, especially like you referenced in those hard hedge situations in the pick and roll. Definitely in the first half, but the adjustments made. I mean, it took away a big thing that they were doing to get open shots. And I think that's why you saw us have so much more success in the half court. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, I mean, the amount of I know we're a good shooting team and one of the best offensive teams in the country. Just the balls on these guys to just continuously knock down the mid-range shots. I mean, these are I know we're used to. I keep saying this about our team. We're used to watching them, so some of the stuff they do that is extraordinary looks normal to us because we've been watching it for 30 games now. Just, college players don't consistently knock down mid-range shots. Our entire team was just, you're going to crowd the 3-point line. I'm going to drive and pull up for the mid-range and knock it down time and time again. Wong, Poplar, Pack, Jordan Miller obviously didn't miss. That also swung in the game. I think once they adjusted to. I do think there were some forced 3-point shots, and then, actually not that many. We shot 8 in total, but I think they were hunting for them and maybe not even getting them off. And once they said, no, we can go around them, and we don't have to go all the way to the rim because our mid-range game is strong. We paper cutted them to death essentially in the second half.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I just remember that one. I think Wooga got an offensive rebound and he was dribbling it out and he noticed no one was near him and he's like, oh, well, this is my shot. And he just drilled a mid-range right off the offensive rebound. And I'm like, that's a shot.
That was the one. Again, Texas did such a good job of scouting. We love to run that alley-oop off the back end, and they almost double-teamed it and knocked the ball away, and then we got lucky. It found Wooga.
It's because they switched to a zone, I think it was for a little bit, and they love that that alley-oop to Isaiah Wong. It was one of the best plays last year that we would run.
And they were all they came out with a good plan, and then again we keep saying we're hard to guard, we're hard to beat, and eventually adjusted and kind of took it to them. And I forget what the game ended on. I want to say like a 31-14 run or something ridiculous like that to close the game out. It was, the last 8 minutes was just a complete wipeout by us. So
yeah,
it's impressive. It was impressive.
It was.
And so you got anything? I'll give you the floor again if there's anything else on Texas you want to touch on before we pivot here.
No, I think I'm good. I think we covered everything.
All right, before we do that, let me do a little sponsored ad read here. So this is a new sponsor for us. It's Better Edge. Pull this up. So Better Edge, it's a little bit different way to kind of wager on sports rather than having a house set the line and have that situation. Instead, you propose what you want to bet, and if someone else accepts it, it's basically a betting market. So if someone else accepts it, then you now have a wager at that line against someone else. You're not betting against the house, which has the added bonus of making it legal in 45 states. So because you're just doing an exchange there. So it's a kind of a cool way to do it. And we are running a special with them. If you look at the bottom, if you go to betteredge.com/5reasons, you'll get $20 for free to place a bet. And they are also running a Final Four special, a Florida-based one. I mean, we haven't even talked about the absurdity of FAU being there, but so yeah, we are running a special there with Better Edge and 5 Reasons. If you place a bet on or against a Florida team, you can win $100 bonus. And then there's also a free pick-em contest if you hop in there, and then if you get that correct, you win $200. So not a bad deal there. That one's free to join. So again, visit our sponsor at betteredge.com/5reasons. And yeah, good luck if you choose to partake. All right, man. Actually, you know what? We got this comment earlier, and this is this is. I mean, what the hell, dude? Miami's in the Final Four. Let's go.
Honestly,
man. Let's go.
I think we were both kind of optimistic about this season, right? But did you think that they were going to make the Final Four? Like, how confident? If I told you they would be in the Final Four, would you believe me?
I would believe you. It wasn't unbelievable, but I mean, this is kind of stupid because we all pick Miami in our brackets because we're homers. But do we actually believe it? That's a different question. Yeah, I still don't believe it in that sense. But like on paper, I think one of the weird things here is just I don't know that. Obviously, by seed number, we've had 3 upsets in a row. But like after the Houston game, and you gave me some confidence going in, like saying this is a good matchup, we're gonna handle them easily, and we did. And you see all the headlines, Miami big upset, and I'm like, I back our guys to win games, like they always win games. Like what are we talking about? But I think we're probably less surprised knowing what this team is made of and watching them play all year than like a neutral observer would be. I'm thinking, why is the 5 seed? But we only lost a handful of games this year. It wasn't like normally an ACC team with this resume is a 1 seed. So I think it's kind of, the ACC was down and fair play because Pitt's the only one that got out of the first weekend other than us. So maybe it was bad, but we just happened to be good in a bad conference. So yeah, it's still kind of shocking. Just it's one of those things you think about and you think maybe one day, and then what's actually happening, it is kind of like, wow, this is really happening. I remember where there was like, it might have been when Wooga was going to the line at the end or whatever. And it just like dawned on me because I saw like the cheerleaders like getting up ready to storm the court. I'm like, this is really happening. This is going to happen. Like unbelievable. What about you? Where are you at on this?
Yeah, man, it's crazy. I don't know. Like, I mean, if you asked me a couple years ago or if I thought Miami would make a Final Four, I don't know what I would say to that. But at the start of the season, I mean, I felt confident that we could, definitely be like the best team in the ACC. And I wasn't sure, the tournament's just so weird. You know what I mean? Obviously, I have every all the confidence in Coach L and, the players and stuff. But it's just like you never know what could happen. But to me, it's like looking at the journey of like, we beat. I mean, start off Drake, a lot of people picked that upset. And then you look, we got Indiana next. It's not like, the 13 seed, upset, Indiana, we were playing them or something. And then we got Houston and then we got Texas. You know what I mean? Like it's just crazy. it's just crazy how it worked out and seeing the journey. And I mean, I'm proud of these guys no matter what, because they've done something that no other Miami Hurricane team has done. But I mean, at the same time, I mean, the job's not finished, right? So
yeah, and I think that's and quiet flies to your question. We're gonna definitely do a big breakdown on UConn, so we'll address that as well. Yeah, I think, you know, if it doesn't go well this weekend, I think we'll be, you know, a month or two from now, we'll reflect on the accomplishment. It's going to be hurting back because we're in position here to win the championship. I mean, I think our next game is probably our toughest one. So I think it would be very disappointing to fail at this stage just because the opportunity is there. But to your point, with all this, the tournament of upsets and all that stuff, we have not caught a break.
no, that's what I'm saying.
The highest possible. We have the hardest possible path for a 5 seed. You look at the other teams there. I forget who SDSU played the second. Oh, it was Furman, because Virginia.
Yeah, they played Furman.
Yeah, because Virginia blew the game. FAU got Fairleigh Dickinson in the second round. Connecticut got Arkansas in the Sweet 16 because they upset Kansas. Like every other team there has had at least one. Like, wow, we're lucky we're playing this team in this round, and we haven't had that at all. Not even a little bit, like not even getting the 3 instead of the 2, like getting Xavier instead of Texas. We got Texas, we got the 2 seed, right? It's the maximum difficulty. Yeah, to navigate that is, if you told me we would navigate that, maybe that's a different question. It's like, who's navigating that? No one's gonna actually have to beat every single highest possible seed to get to the Final Four, but they did it. Yeah, let's talk Connecticut. I know we touched on them a little bit earlier. And so actually, let's just start with Quiet Flight's questions. So is UConn quicker than us? How about guard play? Who's better? Yeah, throw that to you, my friend.
Yeah, one possession. UConn quicker. How about guard play? I'm taking our guards. I've said this, I mean, throughout every show we've done, I'm taking our guards over anyone. They do have talented guards. You know, Jordan Hawkins is a really good player. I think the thing that's the most interesting, they have some guys that come off the bench too that are pretty good. There's not much drop off. I mean, they're a pretty deep team. The thing that kind of sticks out to me though is like they don't really have that, like, at least in my opinion, that traditional like point guard. Andre Jackson is kind of like a do-it-all, you know, what's the word, utility type guy, you know, similar to like what Jordan Miller was last year, but I think he's, you know, just a little different. He's kind of the one that initiates the offense in the half court. And I would say, like, you know, it's kind of like a effort by everyone to kind of make plays as well. But I mean, the thing with UConn is they turn the ball over. You know what I mean? Like their guards will turn it over. Andre Jackson will as well. So, I mean, if we're able to create some pressure and force some turnovers and get some points in transition, it would be huge because I think, you know, their half-court defense is pretty good. They're a good perimeter guarding team. They're very athletic and they're able to switch a lot of things, kind of similar to us. But I mean, I'm taking our guards over anyone. And in terms of quickness, I would say, I mean, offensively, they're probably one of the best teams when it comes to transition offense. They are quick. I mean, Sanogo's really quick for his size. Even their backup big that comes off the bench at 7'2", Klingon is pretty quick for how big he is and pretty mobile. So I would still give the edge to us just because of how good our guards are and how quick they are. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be a tough matchup.
Yeah, and I don't know that UConn, you're right, is good in transition, but they're not. I would say I saw actually, I randomly, because UConn went to Albany too, actually saw them play in person while I was waiting for our game to start. They are. I thought Texas is a much quicker team than they are. UConn was just like, they're like, I mean, again, they've blown everyone out, so they looked really impressive. There was almost like an inevitability about them in their execution. Against Iona, they were down at the half and just killed them in the second half. St. Mary's, I think they were up 1 at the half and then, you know, flipped the switch. All their margins have been blowouts by the end of the game. They were, at least for a couple of halves there, not necessarily killing people. I didn't view quickness. I think Hawkins, you got to stay home on him. Yeah, he's a great shooter. And then Sanogo is he's much more. He has been assisting more in the tournament, but he's not a great passer. And I think that's, you just gotta. it's not a situation where like I say this as he kind of did this to Gonzaga, but it's not a situation where they're going to feed him the post and he's going to like make plays past him. He
Yeah.
is more
I
of
mean,
a scorer.
it was more of like the way Gonzaga was playing. They were playing way off of Andre Jackson, and so they were basically doubling Sonogo. And so, I mean, Andre Jackson's a smart enough player. He's going to cut to the basket, and Sonogo got a lot of assists like that. So I think that's kind of where the numbers got it, because he had like, didn't he have like an absurd amount? It was like 8 or 9 or something.
Yeah, and I think it was like, I think his season high was 4 going into that game.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what we call an anomaly, folks. The other thing, look, they beat some good teams together. Gonzaga is good. St. Mary's is good, right?
Yeah.
They're also not athletic. And I mean, is Arkansas the most athletic team they played? Like they're
yeah. So
I do wonder if Connecticut's at like one of the, like, just like when we play on athletic teams, we match up. Like we talked about this actually after India. We're not that point margin better than them. But when we matched up with them, it's a horrible matchup for them.
Yeah.
And I felt like UConn has benefited from the 2 best teams they played were good matchups for them.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I think that, if they do have a weakness, it's when they play against really good guard play, right? Like if you look at their schedule in the Big East, I know they struggled. I think they lost to Marquette like 2 or 3 times and whatnot. And Marquette has really good guards. I'm going to take our guards over anyone, like I said. But I mean, you look at the teams you referenced, they played against St. Mary's, right? St. Mary's is, slow you down. Our defense, we're not going to have lapses and whatnot. They don't have the most athletic guards. They don't have, Aiden Mahaney was really good as a true freshman, but, they don't have the most like create your own shot type of guards. It's more like set within the offense. Arkansas, they might have NBA talent and whatnot, but they were a terrible 3-point shooting team. And that's why, it's easy to guard a team when they're not going to be able to make anything from the perimeter. And then who was the last team they played? And then Iona, which I didn't really catch that game. But I mean, what I'm getting at essentially is it's going to be an adjustment for them because they haven't played guards like us that are able to create at such a high level.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to see that right at the start.
It's adjustment for every team to play us because you don't really see. Frankly, a lot of it is Jordan Miller is a freak, and he can guard bigs. He's got wingspan to play in the paint, and he can also guard guards and shoot threes and initiate the offense. Like he's just sticking him on the court is already a matchup problem, and then everyone else around, like I said, quick. The team is well constructed, and you don't play anyone like that. And for UConn, the jump is even more because they've again been playing. I mean, just hit a string of teams that don't really have the athleticism to handle them. And I agree with you. I think our guards are better than theirs. The other thing I'm looking at is I'm going back to your boy Jordan Miller here. Caravan has struggled defensively a lot this year. And
that's what I wanted to talk about.
And that I'm assuming he's going to have to try and check. Oh, I'll just give it to you since you want to talk about it.
This is more of a discussion I wanted to have because I was looking at like, our 5, their 5, the matchups. And I'm like, okay, their 2 guards are probably going to take Nigel and Wooga, right? But then, I mean, Isaiah, they'll probably want to put Andre Jackson. He's probably their best defensive player, and he has that length. And I think he's pretty athletic. He's quick for how big he is. I think he's 6'6" or 6'7". He looks bigger because he's so long. That's who I think that they're going to probably put on Zay. And if he's guarding him, I mean, you're going to put Caravan on Norchad? Like, that's not going to happen. You know what I mean? So, I mean, either way, like, Jordan Miller has another mismatch, and I'm taking him. I mean, Caravan, plays well as a freshman, but, I mean, that's a mismatch I'll take every day, all day.
Yeah, and I think it's going to just be whoever he guards is probably where you attack. Like, Wooga can go past him pretty easily, too. If they decide to try and hide him there, definitely, like, Pack and Zay can smoke him as well. So, I think that is kind of the exploitable part of their defense because they've had to pull him out of games at times this year because he couldn't defend, and he's going to have to guard one of the 4 guys we mentioned. So I don't know how exactly he's going to do that.
Yeah. Well, and then that's my thing. So like, do they go smaller? Do they bring in 4 guards? Do they like what do they end up doing? That's going to be the interesting part in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll start with their normal starting lineup, but I mean, look, they're here for a reason, so I'm sure they've already like kind of gamed this out. All right, if this isn't working, what's plan B? Right.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, like, so one of the things that helped turn the game against Indiana was Jordan Miller guarding the center. Do you think do you think there's any chance we use him on Sonogo here?
Yeah, I mean, I thought about that. I mean, I wouldn't be super. Oh, shout out Michael Doyle. That's one of my boys. You know, I've thought about that. I could see Coach L doing that if like he wants to, kind of keep Norchad away from fouling in a way, because I think that's going to be a big thing. Because I mean, Sonogo is going to be in. Klingon, who is a really good freshman. He has really impressive stats in the short amount of time that he plays. He's super efficient off the bench. And he, like I said, he's pretty for how big he is. He's pretty mobile for that 7'2" frame. That's going to be the biggest thing is like, can Norchad stay out of trouble? Because I mean, he's dealt with that, multiple times this season, and I mean, he's an important piece, especially with how physical UConn does play. I mean, they foul at a very high rate, so he can't really match that energy because we need him on the court. Our bench is not as deep as UConn's. They go 8-9 deep. Without like a ton of drop off, we have some good guys on the bench, but I mean, they have 8 or 9 solid guys that contribute.
Yeah, and I think the challenge with our bench too is probably our 2 best bench players play on the perimeter, which is where we're also loaded on the starter side. So like, you'd be totally fine with like Bensley Joseph logging a ton of minutes, except for who, and then it doesn't help the Norchad problem. So you're right. He's the one guy who, like, because let's say Jordan Miller gets in foul trouble, fine, we'll put like Beverly in by some minutes. We'll get Bensley in there and play small, right? That's all fine. But if Norchad gets in foul trouble, it's Anthony Walker and AJ Casey have to come in, or play Jordan Miller at center again. And I mean, what do you think of? We pulled that lever against Texas. Didn't entirely do it against Indiana. We just switched him defensively, but Walker was still on the court. Those were kind of the 2 times that we had to protect that Norchad was in foul trouble in this tournament. How would that look? Because Sonogo's a legit big that can do damage in the paint. Do you think we might see that kind of small ball lineup? And then is it just us gambling? We're not going to be able to guard you, but you're not going to be able to guard us either. So something's got to give there.
Well, and I mean, I haven't watched a ton of his game, but in terms of Caravan, when you watch his game, you didn't see him post up as much, right? He was more of like that guy, right?
Yeah, he's like more of a spot up shooter.
Yeah, so I mean, you could totally put another guard out on him, right? It's just making sure, I don't know how good he is off the offensive glass, but I mean, because then you have a mismatch on offense as well. If he's just a spot up shooter, it's just more of like, can Jordan Miller handle all that with Sonogo? I think he can. But I mean,
well, he's just I think what we have to do, and again, somewhat similar to Indiana and Texas, is have the offensive mismatch on our end be more exploitable on the other end.
Oh,
like, that's a mismatch for both offenses, but which one, who blinks first on that? We saw this actually last year against Arkansas. I mean, not Arkansas, Auburn with Kessler. Was an NBA player.
He played him off the court.
Yeah, just like, all right, we're gonna put Jordan Miller on him. Someone's gonna blink, and it was them. So I think you could see something similar here. Like you said, they might have to go small at some point to match up.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, that's what teams have done with us in this tournament. They've, had to match up with what we were doing, and that's how we've won games, because we're going to do what we do best better than, teams that are trying to adjust to us, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and please don't even joke about this, man.
No.
He made his one, which is his 3rd of the year. I think he's probably done. I think that was probably the last 3 he's ever going to make.
It's interesting to me because Texas was able to take advantage of how we were playing defense, right? How we were aggressive, hard hedging ball screens and whatnot. I feel like we're going to see a lot of pressure to start the game just to kind of see how they handle it, because their guards will turn the ball over. So that's kind of like one of the intriguing things that I'm looking for right at the start of the game.
Yeah, and I mean, it's still incredible we won that game because Texas was essentially executing and shooting perfectly, and still we won that game. Because
Yeah,
to your point, not only did they exploit it, they just always were making the shot. Which, again, part of it is they're open. You're much more likely to knock it down when you're open, but usually still miss sometimes. And so, if UConn, I mean, we were right in that game the whole game, and then eventually won it despite that shooting. So, if UConn turns it over a few times and or misses some of those shots, all of a sudden you're in a situation where you take a few points off the board, add a few hours, and it looks a lot better. So it'll be interesting to see how long we've gone through so many. I mean, Coach L has done such a great job adjusting. We've kind of on the fly implemented so many changes in the middle of these games. Jordan Miller against Indiana, just switching defensively. Against Houston, Anthony Walker played well, got a lot of minutes, right? He bought some minutes for us there. And then against Texas, nothing from him really, and going small to stay in the game. So, I mean, he's got all these tools in his tool belt. So it's kind of interesting to see what he's got in store for Connecticut here.
No, yeah, absolutely. I don't know, man. This game is just like so intriguing. This one's like the harder to read.
Yeah, I mean, I thought we were done.
I did too.
I was like,
and I did one of those. I did one of those like texted my group chat of all my buddies, and I was like, the reverse like jinx type of thing. Like
Yeah.
I texted them, I was like, oh, RIP, like we're done, it's over. And then literally like 30 seconds later was when the run started happening. So it was like, hey.
Yeah, it happened very quickly.
Yeah. No, it was crazy.
So do you think, I guess here's another question and we'll do some predictions. So we have seen kind of a spread of lineups. Do you think we're going to see anything different that we haven't seen in this tournament yet?
You mean on our end or on their end?
On our end. Because I think on their end, there's a high likelihood at some point they're playing small.
I mean, we don't really play that many guys. Like, I don't really think that we would see a lineup that we haven't really seen that much. You know what I mean? Because we went small last game, so it's something we could see. But yeah, no, I don't.
I mean, do you think we might see something like, I guess, assuming it doesn't go as poorly as the last game, you think we'll see more minutes for Casey or Walker or something in this game?
I'll be 100% honest with you. I have no idea. Because like it's like going to be like a chess match, with Coach Hurley and Coach L. I mean, it's just because of like their depth, obviously we know who's going to start the game. It's going to be the same guys that have been starting, but like seeing how they make adjustments on their end, if they end up going smaller, if they end up, keeping Caravan in a lot more. It's just going to be interesting to see. I just really don't know with this one, man.
Yeah, it's a tough one to get a read on.
I mean, one of the biggest other things we haven't even talked about this is keeping them off the offensive glass. I mean, they're the second highest offensive rebounding team in terms of offensive rebound percentage in college basketball. A lot of that is Sanogo and Andre Jackson. And then Klingon when he comes off the bench. So that's the biggest thing. But I think we've done overall a good job for how undersized we are of like getting rebounding.
Yeah, we've done a good job of our guards getting there and just being athletic. So it's a concerted effort though to do that. So that we got to do that. And then again, this is Norch had foul trouble. I think is the biggest thing here because he's a rebounding machine by himself and. Part of that is him not being in foul trouble and be able to. I mean, he goes for every rebounds, sometimes not wisely, and that's where some of his fouls come from. But he has like a sixth sense of just locating the ball and getting there first and getting it. And so, if he stays out of foul trouble early where he's able to freely attack the glass, then, it'll mitigate some of their rebounding edge. But if he's in foul trouble and or, has to sit because of it, that's where, because I think, certainly in the end of the Texas game, he was not as aggressive as normal. And smartly, because we don't want to foul out, but it did allow them to get a few offensive boards down the stretch that they weren't getting earlier when, in particular, the beginning of the second half when he was, we have one foul, woo, and then like 10 minutes later, you got 4 now, buddy.
I think too, in terms of like when Gonzaga was playing UConn, whoever was guarding Andre Jackson, I think it was usually Timmy, would kind of like stay away from him, like play off. And, he was able to utilize that. He attacked the offensive glass a lot. I think he had like 6 offensive rebounds, maybe 7 or something like that. So, if we're going to play off of him, it's knowing your personnel. You have to know that he's going to attack the offensive glass no matter what. So, even if you're playing off him, you got to be able to find him and box him out.
Yeah, and that was just, that whole game, Gonzaga kind of lost their heads there. Timmy picked up all his foul. They kind of had a little bit of a meltdown. So
yeah, well, with Timmy out, that team and that's the other thing too. Like Gonzaga this year, they did not have the same guards that they usually have had, and I think that's why they have guards, a guard like Nembhard, Jalen Suggs or something in this game. Then in that last game, it would have been completely different. But that's where guard play is so important in the tournament. They control the pace, control the offense, and I think that's why Gonzaga lost, let alone the issues with Timmy getting into foul trouble.
Yep. All right, man. So to wrap up here, Saturday night, 8:49, I guess is the time, 7:49 there. So don't screw up the time difference.
We'll both be there.
Yeah.
Man.
Yes, we will both be there. That's why I said don't screw up the time difference, because I guess you'll just miss the first half of FAU San Diego State or something instead of a Scar game. But all right, man. So yeah, we'll both be there. Are we doing a finals preview show on Sunday? That's my cue for you to do a prediction.
I am taking Miami 79-75. I was trying to think of a good number. What sounded good?
Oh man. God, I keep saying, God, it's just the stress. Yeah, I think we're gonna win because I think they haven't played any close games, and part of it's because they've been playing that well. I look back through, watched some. I actually saw some of their stuff in person again randomly because they were in Albany and it was the same ticket. And then watching them last weekend, they look impressive. But I'm also looking at the opponents, and their opponents do not.
Yeah, it's a very, very high contrast to what they've been playing. Maybe some similarities to Arkansas, but still, that's not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but Arkansas was an 8 for a reason. This is they missed what would have been their toughest game, and then I do wonder if UCLA had won that game, if they would have had a much tougher time, because UCLA is more physical and athletic and could have probably challenged them a little bit more. I thought Gonzaga played a horrible game from strategy to execution to everything, and part of that is UConn, part of that is Gonzaga. They laid an egg in that game. So I think part of that is I think there's definitely that that they haven't been tested because of the competition. It's almost like they got an easier path here. Everyone had an easier path than we did because we literally played the toughest game possible in every round. Yeah. But we also played some really teams that almost on paper should be bad matchups for us and got through them anyway. They haven't really hit that yet. And so that's why I like us in this game. I think they're probably a tad overconfident. Everyone is picking them.
Just like every round for us. Everyone's picking the other team.
Yeah, even like you mentioned, even Drake, it was probably about 50-50. And ever since then, it's been pretty much very one-sided against us. And, they're feeling themselves a little bit. And once they get hit in the mouth, how are they going to respond? I wouldn't be surprised if we win comfortably, to be honest. They haven't been challenged yet. Now, that involves us shooting well. Right. Yeah. The thing I really like about teams is why I'm fairly confident we'll win. We have we have a Swiss Army knife of offense, And if one of the tools doesn't work, we take another one out. And we saw against Texas, they took our 3-pointer away. And you know what? All right, we'll go in the paint on every play, and you'll either foul us or we'll score. And 88 points later, job done, right? So I think, I honestly, I mean, I'm tipping a little bit, but I think we're the best team in the country. It's going to show up in the next 2 games. So I'm going to take us to win that game. And I don't know that it'll be. I think I'm curious to see. I guess there's actually did a radio interview today and talked about this. There's the alternative that they're actually as good as they've looked, and they come out and just impose their will, and it's not a fun time for us, right? I mean, they have been killing everyone. So I don't want to just completely dismiss that as a possibility, but I wasn't impressed with their competition to get to the Final Four. And I think this is a big step up for them, which is to our advantage. We've been tested. We also have been. I know this is new for us to be in the Final Four, but we're also the only team that was in the Elite Eight last year. Mm-hmm. I know UConn is a blue blood.
They lost in the first round last year.
Yeah. These kids have not and then Kevin Ollie, they were going through a rough patch there. So the UConn, the brand routinely makes the Final Four, wins national championships. This program, this team, and for the last several years has not been there. It'd be like if our football team ended up in the playoffs, right? It's except we've had a much longer drought than their basketball team, but similar in that, okay, Miami in the playoffs sounds right, but this program hasn't been near here in a while, right? So it's kind of that's the way I view it there. And I actually think we actually have more experience, even though it's our first time in the Final Four. We've been in a lot more high leverage games. So that's why I like us. Anthony, how crazy do you think I've been there? I mean, I got a few minutes left because my boy Jazz is here. By the way, everyone, stick around at 8 p.m. What time is it now? It's 7. Yes. So the 8 p.m. show I'm doing, I got 3 shows going tonight, but we're doing a
triple header.
Yeah. Jazz and I are doing Hitting the Apex. That's our Formula One show. If you're interested, stay on this channel, not this feed. Go find it on the 5 Reasons Sports channel. We're gonna preview the Australian Grand Prix. So, but yeah, a couple of questions on FAU Miami here. I mean, it's so bizarre that we've been made the Weeks' team multiple times. Elite Eight last year, been tap dancing around there. We get there and it's FAU is here. What the hell? Who let them in? I will say, I think I'd rather play San Diego State just because the pressure of even the slightest possibility of losing the championship game to FAU. Oh man, I don't want to have players have to deal with that. You'll never live that down. And this is the problem, right? They're really good. So it's not like you're showing up and they're overmatched. You'd have to blow it to lose. No, they can just flat out beat you. They're good. So it's I don't need that added FAU pressure on top of that because they're a very good team. They've lost 3 games this year. 3. They're really good. They are. If we didn't know they were the commuter school from Boca Raton, we would be yeah, no, it makes sense. That team lost 3 games this year. Of course they're here. It's the brand FAU that's whoa, what's going on here? And so
and the fact that how they're doing it, they have a super deep squad for a team, and they're in Conference USA, right? That's what the conference is.
Yeah,
it's insane that they can play that many guys, and I know they have a few key transfers from other D1 schools, but it's nuts. And the fact that a lot of them are underclassmen too.
Well, I mean, we'll see how many of them are at FAU next year, but
I mean.
Such is life, but just the pressure for a Miami team to show up in the championship game and see FAU standing there again, a good team. So it's not, in theory, you'd love to show up there and see FAU there. It's we're about to win the championship, except they're actually good. So I'd rather have a different brand there.
Could you imagine if it was Miami versus FAU in the championship, or if it's San Diego State? The viewership, from a national scale. What that would be.
I mean, they've had similar, Butler, Connecticut was not exactly a needle mover. I mean, there's been, and they also then proceed to play the worst game of basketball anyone's ever seen. So, there's been some, but this one will probably be, although again, South Florida loves a winner. Like you saw at the airport today, they got the fire hose salute. Like I think actually, all things considered, if it's going to be a non-traditional school, one from a huge metropolitan area, will at least get them some eyeballs that they wouldn't otherwise get if it was like a small school with no fan base. So could be worse. All right, we do have another show. I have another show at 8. Why don't we get out of here with Anthony's questions? If you want to address this stuff in terms of recruiting, do we have a chance to get the top 5 basketball?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that, whenever you're able to make it this far in the tournament, it's, even if Miami loses or whatnot, it definitely increases relevance because you know the brand name and whatnot. And I think NIL too is another plus. But I mean, I think the thing that Coach L most regards just from the past few seasons before these runs is that he's going to look for fit first. You know what I mean? It's not all about stars. It's about fit. I think he loves building via transfers and stuff. I mean, he's had so much success with it and all of his teams that made it deep into the tournament. So I think that's the biggest thing overall. But I think, in terms of recruiting, yeah, it's definitely going to help whoever we're looking at, even in the transfer market as well.
Yeah, and again, I think he's more concerned with fit than the stars. And the only 5-star who ever got is Lonnie Walker. So.
Yeah. Wasn't Earl Timberlake a 5?
Oh yeah, he was. That didn't end well.
Hopefully Brian's doing all right.
Yeah. All right, man. So based on our predictions, we'll be hooking up on Sunday to we're gonna beat up anyway this weekend because we're both in Houston. But we'll be doing a show on Sunday previewing the national championship game. Sounds good.
Sounds good.
All right, everyone. Thanks for staying tuned again. Same channels hitting the Apex coming up right now. I'm actually late to my own show, but all right, stay tuned because after that we do have another Kane show, which I'm sure we'll talk basketball as well. So anyway, want to have a great night, Matt. Thanks as always for joining me, and we'll talk soon.
See you later, man.
The 6 Rig Kane Show. Yeah. The 6 Rig Kane Show. Yeah. The 6 Rings Kane Show.